It's my great pleasure to have Rakesh with us again. So this is the concluding and final webinar of the first webinar series on astrophotography that is being organized by LIGO-India. So we already had very nice talks, one from Rakesh as well and other experts in astrophotography. And we got to learn a lot about the various exotic locations, the technical specifications that go into this fantastic and this very interesting part of photography, which is very passionate as well. So we are looking forward to the talk by Rakesh today. So my name is Debarati Chatterjee. I am a faculty at Ayuka in Pune, and I'm also chairperson of LIGO-India Education and Public Outreach. So it's also very exciting to announce that we will have an astrophotography contest following this 1 month of exciting webinars. And we are going to have these experts on the panel to judge the entries that come from all the participants. So I hope everybody learned a lot from the past webinars and that they will be able to use them to get some amazing captures. So Rakesh, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Debarati. And thanks for having me again as a part two of my talk. And yeah, last 1 month has also been pretty crazy for us with the, preparing for the India International Science Festival that happened in Goa. And but somehow I managed to go through all the other participants' talks. So the best thing what has happened by doing that is that now I know that I have to talk way less because it has been covered extensively by all the other speakers. But what I will do is I'll try to cover a couple of things that many of them tend to not think when it comes to astrophotography. I mean, learning astrophotography and landscape astrophotography is one part, but planning the entire thing is another thing. Majority of even in filmmaking we do this, production of any film takes just only 10% of the entire thing. The 50% of the initial time goes only in pre-production, wherein we think what to shoot, how to shoot, where to shoot, and what are the time, what are the location, how the moon phases will affect your scene, and things of that sort. So learning astrophotography, the tools of trade is one, but learning how to plan to get a good shot is totally a entire different ball game. So I believe everybody, right from Nishan to Rahul to Dorje and a bit of me at the initials, they have given everybody a good understanding of how to do astrophotography. I'm going to touch off that, do a bit of touch of that also during today's talk. But also I'm going to emphasize a lot about planning a lot of things and some of the interesting apps that help you make your work a bit easy. So we're going to do that today. And yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to know that you have announced a competition for astrophotography and landscape astrophotography. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more and more photos coming out from Indian soil. The niche of astrophotography is very small. I mean, there are very few members in this community, and I hope through such webinars and such talks and whatever, we get more and more people to join this community. It's only when we capture the night sky we can tell a lot of things. Of course, there's a science angle to it, but there's also a lot of philosophical angle to it. And anybody who starts learning to do astrophotography, and for that matter, forget even astrophotography, just goes out and enjoys looking at the night sky, I'm sure it's a different side of an enlightenment that they end up understanding of how insignificant we are in the context of all the entire universe. And then suddenly we spend all the problems that we are causing to this planet, and just not the climate side of it, but all the issues that are happening tend to become minuscule in front of the entire stuff. So I would really appreciate everybody going out and watching the stars. And if you're watching the stars, then why not even click them and share it with everyone? So fine, let me now go ahead and share my screen so then we can start today's talk. Viber, is it okay? There's no box, right? Sorry?
Yeah, everything looks fine.
It looks fine, right? Okay, fantastic. So I've also hid my video side of it so that there is no issue, kind of a thing. So let me go ahead. So this is the series talk 5, but this is my second talk. And that now that I know it's the concluding talk. So hey guys, I'm Rakesh. I thought I'll just give a quick introduction of myself because I see a lot of new people who have joined in. So just to give you a brief idea of what I do, uh, I communicate science by using the medium of photographs and films. So in directly, I can call myself as a science communicator or even a science filmmaker or a photographer. I do a lot of expedition photography and filmmaking. And over the last 10 years, I've got a chance to actually be part of several interesting projects documenting and visiting some extreme places of Antarctic, Arctic, and several expeditions to the Himalayas, documenting a lot of research activities. But one of the projects during this last 10 years, which has been pretty interesting, was an Astro project, which we got part funded by the International Astronomical Union. And the idea was to document all the research, astronomy related research institutions in India, and also visit all their field station and observatories. And probably during that time, that was the time when I actually fell in love with landscape astrophotography, because I got chance to actually visit all these amazing exotic and beautiful places, uh, right from Kodaikanal all the way to Henley in Ladakh. And it has been a very interesting shift of the night sky. Like I used to do astrophotography from Goa, and we used to go to Western Ghats. That was the closest place where the light, it used to not be so light polluted, and we used to be very happy about it. Cut to Kodaikanal, and when I saw the skies in Kodaikanal, I said, "Oh man, Goa skies are pathetic. Kodaikanal skies are amazing," and I went crazy capturing a lot of things. From there, we went to Mount Abu in Rajasthan, where we have MIRO, Mount Abu Infrared Observatory, and I felt, oh my God, the skies there are much more better than what we see in Kodaikanal. And doing that, we ended up reaching in Ladakh at Henley at 15,000 feet at the Indian Astronomical Observatory, which is almost like half the Earth, above half the Earth's atmosphere. And the skies from there, oh my God, I could not even recognize the most prominent constellations like Orion or Scorpio or whatever, because it was loaded with stars. I mean, there was like crazy amount of stars out there. And probably after that, coming back to Goa, you don't even feel like clicking photographs because the skies are so polluted and things like that. So that's why we need to also emphasize why it is important to have dark sky reserve. And I'm very happy that Henley is now going to be part of India's first dark sky reserve, and it has been declared. And probably it will be officially declared on March 21st on the equinox day. And now India will have its first dark sky reserve in Henley. And 10 days later, most probably I'll be doing a visit to Henley to document that side of it. So I'm just really looking forward to it. And probably if you're having, Debrati, if you're having another seminar or webinar post a month when I come back, I'll probably have new stuff and new exciting stuff to show everyone of the place and how it is to actually photograph something at minus 30. That's going to be the temperature out there. So anybody interested to join, please.
We're totally looking forward to it.
Yeah. So that's what I do. And just before I start today's stuff, I just thought I'll just quickly run through some of the slides of previous thing, just to give a recap to people who are just joining us from the same session what we had last time. So in the previous session, we did talk about how photography evolved, how cameras evolved, and then we did talk about how these gentlemen, John William Draper and Berkowski, pointed the cameras towards the sky and started capturing the night sky and astronomical events that one sees from the skies up. And John William Draper, this particular photograph of the moon is probably the first astrophotograph uh, that he took using a camera which was invented by Louis Daguerre. It's called the daguerreotype, and it's the first and the only the first surviving photograph of the moon, and it looks like that. And if you see all those patches, that's all fungus laden kind of thing. And then Bukowski did the first solar eclipse photograph, and slowly the interest started. And as days and as technology advanced and as telescopes became bigger, the cameras started getting fitted onto the telescopes. And probably this was the first photograph of the famous Orion Nebula taken by Henry Draper. And this is a 51 minutes exposure. And it's again done using a daguerreotype kind of camera, which he attached to one of the telescopes, which could kind of, track Orion for almost more than an hour, and he exposed it. But if you see the image, it's not that great. I mean, it was great for that time, but if you look at it now, it's not that great. It's blur and it's black and white, and it has a lot of noise and things of that sort. Today, we don't appreciate such photographs because we have our technology has changed so much, and we have such advancement in our cameras and sensors and telescope tracking, and we have in fact gone to a different level of not having just cameras on the earth, but we have put cameras and telescopes up in space. And today the same Orion image looks something like this. And this is a Hubble Space Telescope image that got captured. And so this is what the technology has given us, I mean, in the last 100 years. And all the colors what you see here are not the true colors. This is a false color composite. I mean, it's taken using different filters, and to just give us a good three-dimensional feel of how the Orion Nebula looks. And if you look at the center of it, the 4 stars and a couple of other stars, these are the new young stars which are just getting born in this nebulae. I mean, just getting born it's just not a month or two old. These are again millions of years old. But yeah, that's the beauty of the image from there to now. And the sensors have changed our life, and right from CCD to CMOS that we have today. In fact, I remember of a time when I started my photography with film, with a simple point and shoot film camera, which had just 36 film shots. I don't know if how many of you all here have played around with a film camera. Today's generation don't even know what the film camera and how it looked like, because it's all become digital, and it's all on phone nowadays. But we started off with that, and that's how the technology has changed. And now we have these beautiful, amazing CCD cameras, cooled CCD cameras, which actually cool the sensor right up to 200 degrees below zero and things like that. So there's no noise and things of that sort, and you get beautiful images that one can take through these cameras. And we also did talk about different astronomical events that we can photograph as an amateur, whether it's daytime event that if you want to photograph the sun, sunspots, or eclipses, what are the filters that you can use, and how not to photograph, especially don't look directly at the sun. This is a disclaimer that I want to put. Don't point your camera directly to the sun without a filter. A filter will actually block. A Mylar or a Bardo filter will block almost 99.9% of the sunlight, and which is good enough for your sensor to survive. If you don't have a filter, it's just like a magnifying glass. And if you, I don't know, as kids, if you have played with a magnifying glass and the sunlight and trying to burn stuff, that's what is going to happen to your sensor. And if you put your eye to your telescope and see directly at the sun, you'll have a hole drilled into your iris and your retina. So never watch sun without a filter. But you can do a lot of photography of sun and sun-related events during daytime. interesting sunspots. Students, if anybody wants to take up projects, sunspot, if you monitor the sun on a particular date and time every day, take it for another 30 days interval, you can actually track the sunspot. And if you do a bit of math calculation with it, you can actually, understand the differential rotation of the sun's atmosphere and the surface. There are a lot of interesting projects that also can be done with daytime. You can do deep sky photography, but for this, you need a good telescope with good tracking and a good camera again, that you can fit your camera onto a telescope, which has a very good, very large focal length, or you can even use a telephoto lens. And there are a lot of interesting deep sky objects like galaxies, of course, comets, transients that are there. There are a lot of clusters, globular clusters, open clusters that you can photograph. Even Norway, people are also now, amateurs are also photographing a lot of supernovae explosions and things of that sort. So that you need a telescope to do it. But something that I love to do, that is landscape astrophotography. So this is what I have also talked in the previously and showed you a couple of photographs of it. And here are some of the glimpses of the same collection of the entire annular eclipse, or how it is to photograph high up at Henley. This is how the Indian Astronomical Observatory looks at 15,000 feet, doing star trails and even occultation events, or occasionally you have a beautiful comet that streams by and you can photograph it, and also do a bit of light painting with a lot of astronomical objects, telescopes and other things. So this is what we covered in the previous talk. And if somebody has missed it, these talks are available on the LIGO-India YouTube channel. And you can also see all the other talks if you want to understand the details of each and every episode that has been done. So let's come to today's part. I'll do two parts here. One is, let us try and understand what are the tools of trade, what are the type of camera, the tripods, the lenses, and how do they help stitch and get good night sky photograph. And most importantly, we are going to try and understand a bit about planning, which people tend to ignore. People end up buying all these equipments and decide they'll go on one fine day to some beautiful dark sky, and then when they go to shoot, they'll then realize that either there is no event happening, or there is full moon, or there are a lot of other issues which happen. So you need to plan your shot, and the planning itself takes tremendous amount of time. I'm sure in the previous talk, I think Dorje talked about how he went to this mountain monastery and how much of planning they had done. It takes months of planning just to get one shot at times. You need to plan your logistics, your stay, and lot of other aspects get involved. Taking a shot might just take 10 minutes, but to take that 10 minutes of shot, you have to do at least months of planning. So that's why it's very, very important to plan your shot. So what do we need when it comes to doing landscape astrophotography? Yes, you need a camera. You need a DSLR. That's the preferred one, either DSLR or a mirrorless camera, or any camera that lets you have a manual setting, because you can't let camera choose it, because at night your camera cannot do much if it is on auto. But you need to have an option wherein you can set and tell the camera to shoot at certain parameters. Nowadays, even mobile cameras have something called as a pro mode, which lets you shift, I guess, the focus and the shutter speed and the ISO, but the aperture tends to remain constant because you can't change the lenses of a mobile camera. But still, at least you have a control over the manual mode. So you need a camera for sure, which has this manual mode into it. You need, very, very important when it comes to astrophotography, is to have a sturdy tripod. And tripod is number one, and you need to invest a bit of money and get a good tripod. I have seen people who end up buying good cameras, but invest in a very bad aluminum form of a tripod, and which is like, and when you extend it to full length and you put on your camera and your lens, there's always some amount or the other vibration. So a good tripod is extremely important when it comes to astrophotography or landscape astrophotography. Lenses is a must. Although it is not prerequisite that you should have so many different kinds of lenses, but one standard kit lens that comes with your camera, whether it's 1855 or 18135, anything of that sort, or for to have good landscape photograph, you need to have a lens which is extreme wide. People tend to use fisheye lenses also, but wide lenses are the ones that are generally preferred, somewhere around 14 and above. And I'll talk about it. I'll show you all even some of the lenses. Once, let me just finish off with the presentation side of it, and then I'll display and show you some of them. Remote is needed. It used to be needed, but today's camera and the software upgrade, what it has done is that it has embedded, something called as an intervalometer in every camera. In fact, even mobile cameras nowadays have, some of them have an app wherein you can set an intervalometer and the camera will keep taking photographs at certain intervals. But if your camera doesn't have an intervalometer, you can have this thing called as a remote trigger, and you can set your camera to a particular time duration and things of that sort, and the camera will keep on clicking. And you need this remote for two reasons. One, for it to keep on clicking multiple frames if you're planning to do a stacking or a start rail or a video. And two is that when you click a camera, if it is a DSLR camera, that mirror sometimes takes that vibration, and that vibration might take some amount of time for it to get settled down. And that time is enough to get a star image, which might not be sharp. So it might just be a bit fuzzy or a bit elongated. So in order to avoid any kind of vibrations, you end up triggering it remotely. And you need a torch, preferred a red light torch. It also happened to me during a workshop. Just before workshop, I requested everyone to have a red torch. Probably I didn't make it explicitly clear that it should be red light and not a red torch. I got people bringing me torches which had red body and not the one with red light. So red light is very important because it helps you keep your night vision adaptation, because the moment you put white light, your night vision ends up getting destroyed. So you can put on the light and you can do all the settings and things of that sort. Cameras today, people always ask me, which is the best camera for astrophotography or something, whether it's Canon, Nikon, or Sony, Olympus, Fuji, or Pentax, or any of that sort. I don't have a preferred answer for this, but any camera which can do manual and which can, have, of course, there are few cameras which are meant for astrophotography. I remember Nikon launching two cameras. I think it was 810A or something, which had a different sensor, IR removed from the sensor. There's an IR filter, and that thing was removed from the body. And I remember even Canon launching a camera called Canon 60DA, which has this particular filter removed. So it comes as an attachment where you can put it into the camera and do daytime in regular photography. But at night, if you want to do it, you can remove that particular filter and use it as an astrophotography camera. But all these cameras today are good. All the sensors have gone leaps and bounds to what I had a camera 5 years back to what the camera is today. So they do exceptionally well in low light, and they're extremely sensitive. But in camera, there are two types again in the sensor size. One, we have something called as a full frame sensor, and other one, we have something called as an APS-C or a crop sensor. So this does play sometimes on people's mind, that should we go for a full frame sensor or a crop sensor? Now, everybody has an advantage. The sensor has its own advantage and disadvantage. So it all depends on how you want to use your camera. If you are dedicating a camera only for astrophotography and you're not going to use that camera for anything else, I would recommend you go for a full frame sensor. But the problem with full frame sensors are that the camera cost also increases. Whereas APS-C sensors, the camera cost is a bit less. You can use it for nightscape also, but even for daytime also, you can, of course, use it. But remember this, the bigger the sensor, bigger is the pixel size. The bigger the pixel size, the more light it can take in. The more light it can take in, the more is your signal and less becomes your noise. So that's why people prefer a full frame uh, a sensor compared to a APS-C or even a phone sensor that phone cameras are. That's why a phone camera can't give you such good detailed quality of a night sky shot than what a DSLR with full frame camera uh, can do, kind of a thing. So sensors are important, full frame or APS-C. So remember this, it's not the megapixel that matters. Megapixel matters only if you want to print the photograph into a big billboard or something. I remember today's camera, now it's pretty ironic, there are some phones, I think launched a phone, MI10 or something like that, which claims of having 110 megapixel, and which costs somewhere 30,000 or something like that, 25 or 30,000 rupees. And then you have DSLRs like Nikon D5 or D5, which is like the body itself is 6 lakhs and it is just 21 megapixel. So it really doesn't make sense. I mean, like you have a mobile phone with 110 megapixel, which is like 30,000, and then you have a camera which is like 6 lakhs, just the body, and it is just hardly some 21 megapixel or some 21 or 40 megapixel or something like that. So that's what I'm saying, it's not the megapixel that matters. What matters is the pixel size. So bigger the pixel size, the more the light can come. The more the light, the better is the signal and less is your noise. So hence a full frame sensors are ideally good. But if your budget doesn't permitted to go for that particular thing, there are things. Even I started my astrophotography with an APS-C crop sensor. So you can do wonderful photographs with an APS-C type of cameras also. Mobile cameras are the new in thing, and it is pretty shocking today that people don't buy mobile phones uh, uh, for talking capability, but they buy it for the camera capability. And that's pretty strange. I mean, I remember of a time when we used to buy phones because it is to sound good. But today people don't bother much about the sound quality. They all bother about how many cameras it has and how many megapixel and how many, whether it can do 4K or whatever, whether it can do night sky or whatever. So phones have changed. So I'm sure in a year or two, you'll have phones which will be doing amazing night sky photography and things of that sort. I remember, I think iPhone 12 and all has come with a night mode, which can capture the galaxy and things of that sort. So of course it's iPhone, so it will almost close to a lakh currently. But in days to come, if you can hold on, I'm sure you'll soon have few mobile phones which will be in the budget range and can do amazing night sky photography also. Uh, so now that you have got an understanding of the type of cameras and the sensors, let's come to a very important part when it of capturing stuff. I'm sure Nishant has already talked to you about this. You can just go to his talk to get much more in-depth understanding of all these three things. But I will just quickly touch up on these. And if you'll have any questions related to that, then probably we can take it during the discussion. So for a good photograph, whether it's daytime or whether it's night sky, what is important is the quantity called as exposure. And the photograph has to be a good exposed photograph. It can't be dark, it can't be extremely bright, it has to be perfect. And for it to be perfect, it all depends on these three important pillars, if I can say, or the points of a triangle. That's the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And it's a game of permutation and combination with these three factors that you can decide what is a good exposure for your photograph. So you can increase one, reduce the other one, and increase the other one. kind of thing till you get a good exposure. But all of this also matters, and if you master this, that's it. I mean, your photography skills goes to a different level. I know of people who buy a DSLR camera and then they shoot only on auto. They turn it to auto and let the camera decide everything by themselves. So you don't tend to become a photographer. You are letting the camera do your work. So if you buy a DSLR camera, doesn't matter. Put it on manual mode. Let your initial 1,000 photographs be bad. It doesn't matter. But try and experiment with different aperture, shutter speed, and ISO value till you get a hang of it, till you understand what happens when I shift one or increase the other one or decrease the other one, what happens to a particular photograph. And frankly speaking, nobody can teach you this unless you yourself experiment with this particular thing. But I'll just give you a brief idea about what these aperture, shutter speed, and ISO are. So what is an aperture? I'll show you also through one of the manual lens. Probably after this talk, I'll stop sharing my screen, and then through the laptop camera, I'll try to show it to you what I actually mean by an aperture. So what is an aperture? Aperture is basically a opening. Now you have a lens which has multiple glasses. It's in multiple. We think that a lens would be just be having one glass in front and one glass at the end, but that's not the case. It has multiple lenses, and that actually does all the uh, uh, focal length adjustment and things of that sort. But apart from the lenses, the lens also has one very interesting thing. It's called a diaphragm, and a diaphragm is nothing but it's an aperture. So a diaphragm controls the opening and closing of the lens, and that in turn controls how much of light will pass or fall onto the sensor. So your lens is there, and the lens actually lets the diaphragm will let the amount of light if to fall on the sensor. So if you have a larger aperture, that is f2, it's called a large aperture. If you see the sensor, I mean the diaphragm, it is wide open. If you see a small aperture like f22, your diaphragm is pretty small. Just to give an a rough understanding of what I mean by this is you can compare an aperture to your iris of an eye. So during nighttime, like for now, if you see your iris, you will see your iris becoming big because it's night, the light is very less, and you need more amount of light to fall onto your retina so that you can get a clear image. But during daytime, your same iris will contract and make it small because there's too much amount of light. You yourself might not understand this. I can ask you to do a simple experiment of take a torch and just go to your partner, your mom, dad, or sister, whoever is there with you around. Just ask them, open their eye and just flash a torch onto their eye. You'll suddenly start seeing their iris going, from big to small. But cautionary advice, do it by wearing a helmet, because you never know, next thing you might get is a tight slap from one of them for you irritating them. But having said that, you can even try it with a cat, if you own a cat, because a cat's iris is much more beautiful, and you'll get a perfect understanding of how it looks. So the aperture of a lens is quite similar to an iris of an eye, and it varies from these numbers. So it starts from f1.4, which is a wide or a large aperture. So it lets in too much amount of light to fall on the sensor. And f22 is a very small opening or a hole in your diaphragm, and it reduces the light. So for a night sky photography, that is a landscape astrophotography, you need to keep an wide open aperture. So you need to open your aperture as much as possible, the diaphragm as much as possible. So generally you tend to shoot at f1.4 or f2.0 so that you have more amount of light, because the light coming from the stars are so faint that you have to get in as much as light possible. So you need to open the doors, or you need to open the diaphragm as much as possible. So during daytime, you end up clicking anywhere between f11, f16, f22 because the light is too much. So that's what the aperture is. this is what a shutter speed actually is. So what's a shutter speed? That's the second important point in the exposure triangle. So you have something called as fast shutter speed and slow shutter speed. And the shutter speeds varies right from, in your manual cameras, right from 30 seconds all the way to 1:8,000 of a second. So a fast shutter speed is 1/8,000 of a second, and a slow shutter speed can be anywhere between 30 seconds and like 1 second to 30 second and things of that sort. So if you're trying to capture, like say, a sporting event, you have a person playing cricket and you want that perfect shot, you'll tend to capture it at fast shutter speed. You want to.
I think some of these things have been mentioned
Sorry.
by Nishant.
Yes.
I'm glad that you are repeating this.
I'm just quickly going to take you through this.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
So you have the fast shutter speed and the slow shutter speed kind of thing. I'll also skip this because it's already mentioned. And these are just the basics of it, which I just thought I should just cover quickly.
No, it's great. It's great that you are recollecting these. Yeah.
So for a landscape astrophotography that you want to do, you tend to go towards the slow shutter speed length. So you would majority of the time when we end up doing a wide angle landscape, we end up exposing the camera to almost like 10 seconds to 15 seconds to even 30 seconds at times. But how do you determine this particular exposure? I mean the shutter speed time. So there is a particular rule to it. It's called the rule of 500. This is what we used to tend to use before, but today the rule has changed. There's something called as NPF rule and things of that sort, which gets a bit complicated at times. I mean, in fact, most of the time, it has got to do with from which latitude. It takes into account a lot of parameters, like your pixel size to the latitude from where you're photographing, whether you're at the equator, whether you're at closer to the northern latitudes, because the apparent motion of the stars differ from place to place. So it takes into all these things into account. But for a starting side of it, you can simply use the rule of 500 to understand that if you want to take a photograph without any trailing of star. What I mean by trailing of stars is that when you take a photograph, you need the star to be exactly like a circle or a point object. If it starts becoming elongated, that means the stars have trailed. It's actually not the stars which have trailed, it's the Earth's rotation that creates the trailing effect. So what you need to do is, if you have a camera and you mount a lens, and say if you're shooting, say at 14 mm, that is your focal length of your lens, you need to divide 500 by 14, the focal length of that particular lens. It will give you a value of somewhere close to 35.7, which is equivalent to 36 seconds for a full frame sensor. That is a full frame sensor. If you have a crop sensor, it will give you a value of 22 seconds. So what it tells you is that if you want a photograph, the maximum exposure that you can give without the star trailing is somewhere close to 36 seconds on a 14 mm on a full frame sensor, and a 22 seconds on a 14 mm on a crop sensor. So whatever is your focal length that you want to shoot, like if you're using a focal length of say 20 mm in an 1855 kit lens that you have, you divide 500 by 18. So that will be somewhere close to around 26 seconds or something like that on a full frame sensor, and somewhere close to around 14 seconds on a crop sensor, roughly around 14 to 15 seconds on a crop sensor. Anything beyond that will start showing you this trailing effect. You won't see the star like a dot object. It will become like an elongated object. So rule of 500 sometimes plays and it helps, but generally, as a caution of advice, what I would suggest is to reduce at least 3 to 4 seconds from whatever has been whatever number that you get after dividing. Like for instance, if you're using a full frame sensor on 14 mm, if it comes to 36 seconds, don't go beyond 30 seconds. because the NPF rule also comes into picture. Now, what is NPF rule? I will not discuss about it because it gets a bit technical and you need to do a bit of math and put in your latitude, longitude. You need to understand your pixel size and things of that sort. But anybody is interested here, please feel free to Google what is NPF rule for astrophotography, and you'll get entire trigonometric values and formulas and things of that sort. So I don't want to get into the math side of it. Then people tend to lose interest. So just keep this simple rule of 500. Whatever is your focal length divided by 500, whatever value you'll get, that is the maximum value of seconds that you can keep before a star starts trailing. Okay, I hope it's clear. If not, then probably we can take it up later. The last one, which is very important for a good exposure, is the ISO. And ISO plays a very important role when it comes to giving a good quality, and even if you want to print it up, because if you increase the ISO, night sky photography, you need to have an increased ISO because the light is very faint, and you want the sensitivity of your sensor to go threshold to go higher up so that you can capture good amount of light. Kind of thing. But the problem with the increased ISO is that it starts introducing noise. And so that's why you need to have a good balance between your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO to get a good exposure. So for a landscape astrophotography, we tend to prefer the ISO between 400 to 3200. But as I said, remember, higher ISO is equal to higher noise. So you need to just be a bit, take care of that. The focal length and the lenses also play a very important role when it comes to astrophotography. We have something called as 10 mm to 18 mm. We consider them to be under wide angle. Now, what you mean by wide angle is that it has a good viewing angle. You literally can cover a lot of things. And this is what is generally the most preferred lens when it comes to landscape astrophotography. Of course, you can do astrophotography with other landscape astrophotography with other set of lenses, but your field of view starts reducing. And when you go to higher focal length, if you remember the rule of 500, the higher the focal length, if I just show you the previous slide, if you go to 200 mm, your shutter speed becomes just 3 seconds. And 3 seconds is not a good enough time to capture this faint light. So that is when you start putting your camera on something called as a tracking device. So it will start also tracking that particular star. And so you don't see a trailing and things of that sort. So longer the wavelength, or longer the focal length, the smaller is the field of view. The larger the focal length, or the smaller the focal length, the larger is the field of view. Okay, so for astrophotography, we tend to use a wide angle kind of lenses. I'll show you these lenses in a couple of minutes. Another very important thing that comes when you especially photograph using the DSLR is that the frame that exists, or the display of stars that you end up seeing is pretty fine, pretty small compared. It's like a 2.5 inch or 3 inch of display that you end up seeing. And in that 3-inch display, you can't see whether your stars are actually in focus or not. Now, if you see this particular photograph, it looks like as if there's a mountain and there are a lot of stars and things of that sort. But this is not a focused image. A focused image would look somewhat like this, with very fine and very sharp star-like object. So how do you overcome this? Is that when you focus your stuff, you need to also put your focus ring onto manual, and you need to put the focus ring all the way up to infinity, and do a one small click of the infinity to start seeing the star bright image. But if that's not possible, what you can do is you can put your camera on live view mode and just point it out to any extremely far distant object. And when you do that, you can actually zoom in and see to that it is sharp. And once it is sharp, you can actually get these duct tapes or medical tapes, and you just put it onto your focus ring so that it doesn't move. And the next thing you do is you point it towards the stars to get a sharp image. So if you see this, this is a blur image, a extremely blur image, and this is what a sharp image is. So the focusing becomes extremely important. People tend to also have a confusion whether should we shoot on RAW or JPEG. JPEG has its own advantage, RAW has its own advantage. JPEG compresses your photo and stores onto your memory card, your SD card, or your whatever QSD card or whichever card, and you can click a lot of photographs. But and the file size is also small, so hence you can click thousands of photographs on one particular card. But when it comes to RAW, you can click hardly 100 to 200 or 300 photographs depending on a card capacity, and the file size is extremely big. But the best advantage of having shooting things in RAW is that when you come back and when you see it on a system, and if you feel that your photo is not exposed properly, or it's not color corrected, or white balance is not good, or shutter speed has whatever created some issues, or ISO, there are a lot of grains and noise or whatever it is, you can always edit it. You can always edit RAW to get a good image. But editing a JPEG becomes a problem because JPEG is already compressed, and you're trying to edit a compressed file, so it has lost all the information when it compresses. Whereas RAW contains all the possible information, so you can play around with all this information. So I would suggest everyone to just shoot in RAW and shoot multiple, and you can invest in multiple cards rather than just keeping only on one card. And cards have become now extremely cheap, so even in 1500 you get some very good 64 GB to 128 GB cards, so you can click thousands of raw files that you can shoot. But coming to something which is very important, knowing what to shoot, when to shoot, and where to shoot is one of the most important thing. I mean, which people tend to forget. They plan everything, they know how to do astrophotography, but then they end up reaching to a place, and then they realize that, oh my god, it's either full moon, or you don't have permissions to go to that place, or whatever it is, and then you end up destroying your entire plan. And then a lot of things, I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes from now. And I know we are overshooting the time, but let me quickly take you through it. One interesting way to get I remember during the previous talk, some people were asking me, I mean, I'm from Bombay, which is the best place to shoot the night sky or something like that. And I remember telling them that if you have the money, go to Ladakh, because that's the place where the skies are amazing. But then if you go to this very interesting website called light pollution map info .info, there are also apps nowadays which actually monitor and which actually try and evaluate your night sky conditions and give you a lot of these patches which are away from any light polluted skies. So if you go to this page and you can actually zoom in, this is just not one image, you can actually go to your lat long location and find out which is the closest place where the sky is less light polluted, and then you can plan a trip to that particular place and get at least a better viewing from what it would be from the city. So if you go to this particular website, there are a lot of these patches, if you can see over here. And if you see Ladakh, its entire thing, the red and the white is highly concentrated light pollution. And these scales vary from 1 to 7. So the city light is considered as 7, and a good dark sky place is considered as 1, and Ladakh is considered as 1. I mean, Ladakh skies are in the category of 1, whereas all the city light and with all the sodium vapors and the LED lights now, which has ruined a couple of lighting and putting a lot of glow up, although it is energy saving, but it puts in so much amount of glow into the night sky that you don't end up seeing the stars. So you can use this particular app. It's also there is also an app which helps you. If you can go and download the app, or if you don't want to download the app, there is a web-based interface where you can always go to this particular website and select your lat long, and it will tell you which is the closest place where you can go and shoot your thing. Couple of other apps which are very interesting, which are very important also when it comes to landscape astrophotography. One is it's called the phases of the moon. It tells you what is the current phase of the moon. If generally we don't tend to do a lot of landscape astrophotography, especially during the full moon time, unless you want to do it for a particular reason, that you want the landscape to be illuminated by the moon and you want the stars to be there, kind of a thing. But if you don't want the moon to be there, then you can use this app. It will tell you what is the rise and what is the set time. If you see this, the rising time and the setting time, and it will tell you what is the size, what is the illumination of it, and what is the distance, age, and things of that sort. And you can actually plan your itinerary for shoot by, you can even go to next month and things of that sort to find out which is the best place and best time. So this is one very interesting app. And there's also one more app. It's called Phases of the Moon Pro. So that's a paid version, but this is a free version, where the paid version lets you embed that particular phase of the moon onto your wallpaper on your phone. So you don't even have to open the app. It will keep popping up information for you on the home screen. But the other two apps on your mobile phone that you can use is Stellarium, which is again a paid app. But if you want a free app, then you can go for the Skyview free. And it will tell you a lot of interesting stuff about where the Milky Way will rise as per your lat long, and what time it will rise, what are the planets visible, what are the events visible, and you can actually put in a lot of data that you can put. Even in Stellarium, you can do that, where there are these minor planet center, and they give you a lot of embedded files, and you can actually put in a lot of information about satellites or asteroids or comet information. So if you just point your camera towards the sky, you'll get a good information about the night sky that you would want to photograph. So I took the Phases of the Moon app to actually photograph this 6 days back. This is just the second day of the moon. And if you see the entire, the Earth, the sun has just set, and you can actually see the light of the sun on the moon also. So you can see the whole thing, but you can see a bottom line which is illuminated. I love this photograph because you can see the shades of the hue, right from extremely golden to reddish to black to whatever at the bottom, to changing shades of orange to it to go blue and then dark, kind of thing. So there are a lot of interesting stuff. This was clicked right from my rooftop, and this is just 6 days back, 7 days back, when the moon was just in 10% illumination phase. So you don't even need to go sometimes to a less light illuminated sky to do it. Other apps which are very important before planning is your weather forecasting apps. So there is this beautiful app called windy.com, and on windy.com you can actually check a couple of things. You have different filters, right from pressure, wind speed, and all those things, to simulation based, model based apps that run around. And it can tell you a lot of things about where is the water level and how much is the clouds. If there is any thunderstorm, like for instance, this is today's maps. I just put it up today. There's actually a cyclone which is brewing down south. If you see this, and if you see this, this is the cyclonic area. It's still not a cyclone, but it's about to brew in down the line. It's a bit of a low pressure system that has got created out here. So if you're in Sri Lanka, if you're trying to shoot, you know that this is not going to be a best time to plan a road trip, because you have a bad weather coming in. So you can use these apps to plan your trip accordingly. So Windy is one, and it is a free app on your phone. You also have a web-based thing, and you can also go to IMD website, the Indian Meteorological Department website, and you can use satellite images. So if you see today, even whether it's in Pune or Bombay, it's a bit hazy and a bit clouded skies, because there is a cloud layer that exists. So seeing this, you can actually say that the next 1 or 2 days will not be a good time to even think of taking a road trip. Because if you take a road trip, you travel hundreds or 500 kilometers to a dark sky place, and then you realize that, oh, it's overcast and it's bad sky, then your entire road trip goes bad. This is what happens because we understand the tools of doing astrophotography, but when planning happens, you do everything and you reach there and all you see is clouds. So best is to prepare yourself, plan well in advance, using all these tools and tech and things like that. And I really don't know what is the connection. Probably, I don't know, Zebarati, we should think of doing some research on this, that whenever there's any astronomical phenomena, the clouds always come, and it has always happened to me. I mean, I don't know whether it was Venus transit, whether it was eclipse. I remember traveling all the way to Patna for the 2009 eclipse, and we went to a village called Taregna, and it was like 30 kilometers off Patna or something like that. And we camped over there at night. It was clear. I don't know what happened. At 4 o'clock in the morning, you start seeing clouds, and it rained right at the time of totality. And we had, and all of this was based on predictions. And I had a couple of friends who were headed out to Varanasi, and I was like, joking them, saying that, "Are you're going to have bad skies because we saw the model, and Varanasi is going to be in rain and things of that sort." And it so ended up that I was in rain and they had clear totality. So I really don't know. And this is what happened when I wanted to photograph one of the comets called Neowise, which had come just during the lockdown phase or whatever it is. So this is the place, how it looks from my place. And the comet was just behind. The skies cleared, but the comet, only where the place where the comet was supposed to be there was this huge patch of clouds. And we tried it for almost a week, and I just could not get it. And that's the most sad part. Sometimes that happens. Even after enough of planning, these uncertainties also come. But it's part and parcel of any adventure that you end up taking. So this is what meme that generally happens on a regular day. You always have clear skies, but always on an astronomical event, I don't know what happens. You always have clouds coming in. So last two slides that I want to talk about is that whenever you plan your shot, you're planning to do an astrophotography night or landscape astrophotography. So you have your tools, you know how to do it, but when you reach a location, try to reach the location much before the night starts, because of two, three important things. Sometimes you end up, say you want to go to a hill, and it's right in the jungle or something like that. You have to take permissions. It's very important. You need to update the forest guard or things of that sort. And or if you want to shoot in a monument place, you need to talk to the locals, understand what is the importance of that particular place, and whether they let people be at night. Your safety is primary important, especially in a place like India. We have had a lot of issues also before when we have gone in a group. Thank God it was because it's a group, we were safe. But apart from that, we had these untoward incidences of people, drinking and throwing bottles and things of that sort. So you need to be extremely careful. Talk to locals. Sometimes it's important, because sometimes when we want to photograph some important monuments, whether it's religious monuments or temple or a historical temple, I mean old temple or a church or anything with a good night sky backdrop, and you go there without sometimes with footwears, no footwears or something like that, and then it can upset locals, because for them it's a deity or whatever it is. That's why it's very important you reach well on time, and you talk to the locals, take their permission. If they're okay with it, then go ahead. And you need to respect that particular place and respect their particular place. You can't just say that mujhe night sky shoot karni hai and I need it or whatever, and just disrupt their beliefs and go it. So you need to be very sensitive about this aspect of it. Moment you reach there, don't set up your tools. Please explore the place, check out whether it is good, not good, whether check. There has been times when we have seen people reaching to a place and have set up their camera, only to realize that a road passes next to it from far away, and every time a vehicle takes a turn, there's a big beam of light which falls right onto your camera, which we could not realize during the daytime, because no cars could put on their head, I mean the headlamp or something like that. That's why, and then the entire setup had to be shifted to another place where we could defend from the light coming from the traffic. So it's very important that you explore the place and then you do it. That's why I said don't shoot immediately, just hold on for everything. And very importantly, before you set up anything, is to check your surroundings. And I'm saying this because this happened to me when I was doing a small star trail for this particular photograph at Venu Bapu Observatory in Kavalur in Tamil Nadu. And I don't know how many of you know this particular place, but this place is right in the heart of the forest. And this forest was known to be a sandalwood forest, and there was this very famous um, gangster called Veerappan who used to roam around this particular place, but after, I mean, he was shot dead and whatever. But there are still people who come there to rob stuff and things of that sort. So when I was there, although it is secluded, but we had armed guards who would keep taking turns. And if you see this light at the bottom, these are nothing but the torch lights of the armed guards who keep taking patrols of the place and seeing stuff. But robbers were something, or gangsters were something that I could manage to deal with, because I could feel that, okay, I'm safe because they were armed people. But what I could not deal with were something else. And that was while I was doing this, and we had to wait for almost 1.5 hours. And I was just talking, and my wife was also there with me, and we were just talking. Suddenly, I feel something on my leg, and I
Snakes,
just
right?
snakes. I would have freaked out, but snakes probably would have not crawled onto me. They would have just run away because of the what do you call that, the vibrations or something like that. But when I put on the torchlight, I saw that this guy was trying to crawl onto me, and this was a scorpion. So
Ooh.
so that's why it's very important to constantly keep checking your surroundings every now and then. Even if a place looks very barren or whatever, remember there are night creepy crawlers who will come to check you all out. So be extremely careful, and hence it's very important that whenever you go for any of these places, there are a couple of things that you need to take along with you. If you're doing, I mean, you're going out for the entire night, one for sure is your winter gear or a jacket or anything, because at night it can dew, especially in months like December. And it's winter time, it can get cold, and there are a lot of erratic monsoon showers and things of that sort that suddenly can happen, and things of that sort. Gloves sometimes important, especially if you're in the hills and you're and it gets extremely cold. If there is nothing around where you can take shelter, then sometimes you need to take a tent along with you, because sometimes it gets too, if the sky gets cloudy or something, you can't come back and after reaching. So best is to take a night out, sleep in a tent. Don't sleep in open, because you never know who will crawl over you or what can come over you, or whatever. So always have a tent with you, and have a bug spray. Very important, because there are times when we go to places when there are a lot of mosquitoes, and especially with a lot of infectious diseases now that's coming up, whether it's dengue, malaria, or whatever it can be. Just be have a full covered place, although it might be hot, but try to cover yourself as much as possible. And shoes is a must, because at places we have had people having tick bites, leech bites, and things of that sort. So your safety is more important than the photograph that you take, because unless you're alive, you will never come back with the photograph. So remember that. And of course, a lot of food, a lot of coffee, and if possible, take a radio or something with you, because at night you might want to sing, but your partner or whoever is there with you might not like you sing. So best is let the professionals do it. So have a radio or a music system, because sometimes it gets boring at times, taking long star trail exposures or something. But trust me, it's fun when you do a night out, especially with a friend or family or whatever. And the experience is different. Enjoy the experience. That's what I would end up saying at the end. And yeah, I mean, I think Nishant has already talked about this, but I'll just quickly show you. To do a star trail photography, you need to set up your camera. And because I told you all those things, all the tent and the gears and everything is only if you are interested in doing a star trail photography, because you need to leave your camera continuously taking photograph for at least 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So what would you do? You can't just leave your camera and go to some other place and say that you'll recover the camera later. But you might come back and you might realize that the camera is not there, especially in a place like the kind of places where we live in. Either it will be some animals or whatever it can be, or even people who, there are a lot of people who come and go during the forest places or something, unless it's secluded or things of that sort. So you need to be there. So if you're doing a star trail photograph, all those things are important. So you set up your camera on the tripod. You need to take multiple frames and things of that sort. So, and then keep taking multiple frames. Nishant has already shown you that particular demonstration. And when you keep doing this and you end up stacking them, and then you get an image like this. This is almost 3 hours stacking uh, to get an entire star trail. And if you see the North Star here is actually not right. The North Star is not actually right at the center. It's a bit off center. People think that North Star is right at the center at 90 degrees zenith kind of a thing. But that's not the case. The North Star also has a small circumnavigation that happens around it, kind of circumpolar thing that happens. And rest all the other concentric rings get formed. If you see this particular image, you'll see a lot of gaps in between. And that gap is thanks to the security guard who did not realize that the camera is there, and he kept walking around flashing torch, and he used to keep coming. And I didn't realize because I set up the camera and I went inside because it was extremely cold and it was a walkable distance from the observatory. So I just put up the camera and I used to go into the observatory, sit there and have a nice coffee and chit chat. But when I got the images and I stacked them and I saw it, I realized that every time he used to come, he used to flash his camera torch right at the lens. And it used to always fog up. So that's why all these gaps were there. And you can use a simple software like StarStax to do this. Nishant has already covered it. And yeah, there are some other free softwares, app-based on your mobile phones like Snapseed, which can do tons of work. And so is Lightroom. As I was just telling Vaibhav also, probably I'm headed out to Ladakh by end of the month or something. And when I come back from there, I'll have fresh amount of material. So if y'all are interested, if anybody is interested, we can actually do a live editing session of how to edit the photographs using either Snapseed or a Lightroom kind of a thing. So if anybody is interested, what I can also do is I can share some raw images to each one that y'all can download. And simultaneously, y'all can also see the thing and edit it yourself. So you'll get a hands-on experience of how to edit a night sky image. The best part about star trail photography is that apart from getting those concentric rings, you can actually convert it into a short video. I'll just quickly run through a short 30 seconds video and show that you can do apart from doing star trail, you can actually convert them into a beautiful video. So just at the end, I would just say, although I'm repeating this particular thing, and I just want to add it for all the new people, that landscape astrophotography, in fact, for astronomy and astrophotography is always fun. It gives you a different perception about your place in the universe. And it tells you also how insignificant we are and how insignificant our issues are. So once you try and appreciate seeing the things on top, it'll take you to a different level. So if you can see it, you can photograph it. That's the one thumb rule of astrophotography. You can't sit at home and decide that I'm going to go and shoot this, shoot that, or whatever. That's never going to happen. If you want to do it, you need to get out and go and shoot. And don't wait that only if I get this particular camera, only then I can become an astrophotographer or something. The best camera is the camera that you have. So it's not always important that you get the best shot. It's always the memories that matter of what happens while you take that shot. So be passionate about that, making new memories or whatever, and you'll find so many stories to tell. It's about the entire thing. So get out and shoot. Patience is key for everything. If you want to have good image, and you need to have good amount of patience, especially for shooting star trail or things of that sort, and be a bit adventurous. Uh, you need to face the cold, face the heat, face the wind, face the animals, face the creatures, face the locals. You'll have to face all kinds of things if you want to get that one good image. And always, that's what I was saying, go that extra mile. So because I remember this, when we were in Ladakh, we were shooting from the base. We had one particular view. Then we went to the observatory, which is a bit higher up. We had another beautiful view, but there was a small hill on top of it. And first of all, we are at 15,000 feet. So even taking a small camera and a tripod was, so much of problem. It was so much of breathlessness. But then we did that. We went that extra mile. And when we went there and we got the kind of scene that we get to see and the kind of landscape that you get to see is a different thing. So go that extra mile. And yeah, thank you, for tuning in and being here and being there. So just before I take any questions or something, I just thought I'll just quickly show you this. This is a 35 mm prime lens. It's a fully manual lens. And I don't know if you can see this. If you see the whole opening and closing, what you can do is you can pin my thing so that you can see it as full screen. Everybody can just pin my video kind of a thing. I'm just getting it close to the thing. So this is a diaphragm, what you actually see. And when I open it, this is at f1.5, and this is at f22. So the hole opens and closes. So this is the diaphragm. And this, when you open it, it goes to f22. So this is generally what we end up using when it comes to astrophotography kind of a thing. So that was a 35 mm, and then you have these other lenses, wide angle lenses, kind of a thing. And yeah, if you all have any questions or something, I'm happy to take it. Or you can connect with me on Instagram or Facebook, kind of thing.
Thank you, Rakesh. This was fantastic. It was really an awesome talk. I totally enjoyed it. I'm sure all the people who are listening to you today or who will watch the video later, it's absolutely amazing. So you did a great job to basically recap everything that we have talked about in the webinars in the past, and also to give amazing insider tips on from your experiences on what we can do to plan better to have amazing astrophotographs. So this is wonderful. I also wanted to add that I am one of those who has been to the Venu Bapu Observatory. So I was there when I was 20 years old. I was doing a bachelor's project for IIA Bangalore. And so few people didn't believe that it was really like that dangerous. I actually spent the whole night sleepless because I was walking around alone in the forest between the observatory and the guest house. So it was a pretty scary experience, let's say.
It's fun when you see all those big spiders, you're sleeping and there's this big spider up there and things of that sort. The creatures are one, but it's fun. Yeah, that's what jungle life and the night sky.
It's actually being in places like those that motivates you the most to do astrophotography. Like you are in the middle of nowhere, and I think this is like exactly what you summarized also in your last slide, that we need to get out of the comfort zone. Go into like in India, there are rural places. When you go there and you see the night sky without the pollution, it totally motivates you, like to capture.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have some few questions. I see. So was this an one continuous exposure?
So Harit has a question on the chat. So Harit, you can also unmute yourself. So Harit
which photograph are you talking about, Harit?
So the video, the time lapse that you showed.
The video?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a start. If you remember the star trail photograph that I showed you of the observatory and everything. Harit, are you here? So if you remember the star trail photograph of the observatory and this thing, the same thing you can actually convert it into a video.
Yes, sir.
So you can like that particular. I remember I had around somewhere 3 hours of 30 seconds, so 540 images. So if you take 540 images and you put it into a sequence of 24 frames per second, 24 images per second,
Yes,
and
sir.
you run it in, it becomes like a video of the entire thing.
Sir, what was the gap between two exposures?
So these are continuous shots. These are 30 seconds exposure. So so good that you asked. There is a mode on your camera called a night mode or something like that. Night gain mode or something like that. So what happens is that the camera itself tries to negate your noise values. So what it does is that when you take a shot of say 20 seconds or 30 seconds, the camera will take another 30-second shot, but without any light.
Yes, sir.
Without anything, and it will try to subtract it and give you a good shot of the night sky. But the problem what happens is that when you take a 30-second shot and then you let the camera take another 30-second shot without any a night mode, without any image coming in, and then again a 30-second shot, you have missed that particular star for that 30 seconds.
Yes.
So generally, when you do a star trail, you need to turn that mode off. So you need continuous shots of 30 seconds. So then it becomes like one single shot.
So, but then is there any how do I say, disadvantage of taking one continuous exposure?
No. If you're talking about giving one long exposure of 3 hours, then it has a lot of disadvantages. So like for instance, before when we had the what do you call that, photography was done using film roll, and we had to do star trail, we used to do this particular thing. We used to expose it for an hour or two kind of a thing. But then you have to be careful of two things. One is that even in films, or for that matter, like how we have in digital, we have something called as noise. In films, we had something called as grains. So it starts accumulating after a certain amount of time.
Yes.
And just imagine if you're doing a shot of one continuous shot for 2 hours, and if you have that security guard kind of a fellow who will come and at the 1 hour 50th minute comes and flashes a torch into your camera.
Yes, sir.
Your entire 2 hours of exposure is gone for toss.
Yes, sir.
So that's why what we do now is that instead of the cameras have become so sensitive that you don't even have to expose it for 30 minutes or something like that. So you take 30 seconds or 15 seconds, multiple exposures, and then you stack them. And then it will give you a star trail. And if you want to convert them into a video, then you can stack multiple of them as a sequence and put it up depending on 24 frames or 15 frames, depending on your timeline. You can then do it. So you'll get a nice, beautiful.
Understood. Yes, sir.
Right.
Sir, I had some other doubts as well. As in, I did mention this in the first lecture that you had conducted, that I had a lot of technical doubts. So I've asked the same question to other speakers as well, but then I was still confused.
What is it?
So I was confused between a couple of lenses. I have one option as a 14mm 1.8, I think f1.8, and the other one is a 12 to 24 f 2.8. Now, which one would you rather prefer for landscape astrophotography? Is 14mm too wide?
No.
I'm sorry. My bad. Is 12mm too wide, or should I go for a wider aperture?
So it all depends on you at the end of the day. I mean, what is the scene that you want to capture? And see, the thing is, the more wide you go, right, the horizons don't remain straight. It tends to get a curvature because you're having an extreme wide. So it wants to capture everything, and you'll start seeing a spherical kind of a curvature coming in, kind of thing. You can do a lot of corrections to it in the post, but generally what happens, you can also, that's what I'm saying, you can also shoot on 12mm. There's nothing wrong in shooting with 12mm on a full frame, or I don't think full frame does shoot with 12mm. I think it will be 12mm on a crop sensor, which is actually 12 into 1.6. So that
no, sir, it's 12 full frame. This is
12 full frame.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you have a 12 mm on a full frame, I would not advise it 12 because I mean, see, that's what I'm saying. It all depends on how much you want to capture. At
Yes,
the
sir.
end of the day, it is your image. Nobody can tell you how much is good and how much is bad. If you feel that if it's creating that too much of curvature and it gives a bit of distorted look, then you can go for 14 mm
Yes, sir.
kind of a thing.
So the real doubt over here, I think, is that should I go for f 1.8 or 2.8, because the 12 is 2.8, whereas the 14
So
is 1.8.
so see, anything where you can do a larger aperture, 1.8 or something is always good. But if you even 2.8 is not bad.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 2.8, if that's what I'm saying. If it depends on where you're shooting. If you're shooting in a place like Ladakh or something, even f 5.6 is not bad at all, because the skies are so beautiful and so much amount of stars. Even at 5.6, a simple 30 seconds exposure will populate your frame with so much amount of stars.
Yes, sir.
But if you're in a city light, you want to have minimum exposure, I mean minimum shutter speed, because you expose it for a longer time. Then apart from the light, you're getting a lot of noise here now is the city light pollution, which you don't want in your frame.
Yes,
That's
sir.
why you don't want 1.8. I mean, you would prefer to go for 1.8 so that you can give a faster shutter speed and get only the light from the star and not have this particular thing.
So like I
So
mentioned, unfortunately, I live in Mumbai.
yeah, so that's what. So just go to that light pollution map. There are you'll if you zoom in to your location, find the closest place where you don't have these. There's something called a sky quality index that ranges from class 1 to class 7. So you'll anything below 3, I mean 3 to 1. 1 is the best, but then 1 is best like as if it's in Henley or something, or Ladakh. But even 2, 3 is good enough, maximum up to 4. But if anything beyond 4, I would not recommend you to go there unless it is some bright object like say Jupiter, Saturn, Venus,
yes,
or
sir.
something like that. But for stars or Milky Way, it's a no go.
Yes. So,
So, but and there are a lot of places, okay, in and around Mumbai. There is, if I remember, Mulshi is there's one place, Mulshi, which is like a 2 hours drive. There are places in and around Lonavala. I know of a group in Mumbai. They keep going for a lot of star parties.
yes, sir.
For that matter, even IIT Powai campus, if you go to Sanjay Gandhi National Park, it's a bit secluded. You'll get some good shots from there also.
Understood. Yes, sir. So regarding cameras, I mean, I feel both of them are pretty overkill, but I was still confused. So I like you mentioned, megapixel count doesn't really matter, because one was a 64 megapixel camera and the other one was like a 51 megapixel, if I'm not wrong. So is there any preference between that? It's just that one can do video better and the other one can't do video.
See, when it comes to night sky, we do have cameras which can shoot video also of night sky, but they are extremely expensive, and they are not DSLRs. They are these other bigger cameras that exist.
Yes, sir.
But if you want to do photography, it really doesn't matter of the megapixels unless you want to blow it up onto a billboard size of a thing and
Yes,
put
sir.
it up on display or something. But if you want to do it for your Instagram or mobile feeds, or even print a decent size into, if you see this posters behind,
Yes, sir.
that size of a kind of a thing, megapixels will not matter. What matters is your pixel size. So even a 12 megapixel camera with a bigger pixel size will be much better than a 43 megapixel camera uh, with a crop sensor or a mobile phone kind of.
Understood. Yes, sir. So last thing,
Yeah.
This was regarding tripods. So like all the research that I did, only Manfrotto is the thing that topped. Now the thing is, Manfrotto is quite expensive down here.
No, it's I'm not against Manfrotto or something like that. It's a very good tripod, especially the Manfrotto carbon fibered
yes, sir.
tripods. But then you need to have good, money in your pocket to
Yes, sir, that's
afford it. But there are decent amount of tripods now which have come, which have come with carbon fiber. Vanguard has a couple of tripods. Benro has a couple of tripods.
Yes.
There is Shuru or Siru or something. There's a new company which has come, and they are in the range of 3 to 7,000 or 6,000 kind of a thing. and extremely good, extremely decent. And the best part is these tripods are very sturdy. And to make it even more sturdy, if you notice the tripods, just a second, let me just show it to you. If you see this, this is a Benro tripod here.
Yes, sir.
Can you see it?
Yes, sir. Yes, I can see it.
If you see the 3 legs, and then there is the central leg, right? So
yes, sir.
every tripod will have this particular thing, a small, kind of a U-shaped bend or something like that. Many of
Yes,
these
sir.
tripods nowadays come with a thing of that sort. So people don't realize what is this for.
To hang
This
weight,
is only
right?
to make, exactly, you can take a poly bag, just go to a particular place, kind of a thing, and if you find any weights or rocks or anything, you can just dump them into the poly bag and just hang it below it.
Yes, sir.
Right. So it makes this tripod even more sturdier.
Yes, sir. Would you like actually prefer a certain type of tripod head, as in like I saw there were fluid ones, gimbals, or probably even ball
No,
heads?
so that's what I'm saying. If you're talking about specific astrophotography, it doesn't matter. Ball heads are perfect, which is because you don't need that stand or anything. Fluid head tripods and all, you need it if you're doing filmmaking.
Yes, sir.
Because you need a very smooth pan or a tilt motion. But if it's a ball head kind of a tripod, or even a regular tripod or whatever it is, should do, as long as it remains hard and remains fixed, especially if you're putting the camera at a particular portrait angle, or if looking up, it should not slowly start, falling down.
Yes, sir.
We have seen that.
So thank you very much, Rakesh, for taking out time from your busy schedule and for patiently answering all our questions. It was great pleasure to have you again with us. And I'm sure we will have, this is not the end. This is just the end of the series that was meant to motivate people into astrophotography. And this is just the beginning of discovering all that we have learned through the series. So to start with, we will have an astrophoto contest, and then we will have follow-up events, like you said. So we are planning to have a virtual gallery where you can send us some of your best clicks. So this will motivate the contestants. And then it will be great if you guys can take out some time to judge the best contestants. So then this will really motivate everyone. And we will surely have many more follow-up events where, after you have your trip to Ladakh and so on. So it would be nice to have from time to time.
If I survive and come back.
I hope, of course you will.
Just kidding.
Yeah, thank you very much for being with us again. And so this is the end of the webinar series. I hope everyone enjoyed. So we will connect again soon. And if you missed any of the talks, you can watch them again on the YouTube playlist. Thank you very much. So bye-bye from me here and everybody at the LIGO-India outreach team.